Success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, you Realtor Growth listeners. Today I have Curtis and Cynthia. They are the co-founders of B Mortgage. A very unique, a very interesting way, maybe the future of mortgages, where you could get approved drastically quick. Thank you, Curtis and Cynthia, for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Now, I always love hearing kind of the elevator pitch, right? So if you're in an elevator, how would you describe you guys and your company?
Yeah, it's Uber for the mortgage industry.
Okay.
That's the long and the short of it. And who we are, we're a collective group of, I'm a mortgage guy, she's a technologist. We have some two co-founders are real estate agents. And so we're just a team of professionals and technologists that came together and saw an opportunity within the mortgage market to really create a new mobile experience similar to Uber.
So it's Uber in the sense that it's innovative, is it more in the sense that it's, I guess, taking you away from, I guess, the norm? And how would you describe it, kind of like connecting the dots?
Well, it's faster and cheaper, and it's done entirely on your phone.
Okay.
Where the customer journey right now involves a lot of phone calls with the loan officer. You're waiting on a loan officer to process your loan application. And so we're rebuilding the whole thing kind of top to bottom, but we're focused with the user interface being our mobile app. And that's really that Uber aspect of it. You know, before Uber came along, you were calling the taxi cab company and ordering a cab over the phone. Now you're just doing everything in the Uber app. So it's really no different. Before B, you were talking to a loan officer trying to get pre-approved. We're building the whole thing to be done in our app.
Well, let's rewind. I mean, let's get into a younger Curtis and Cynthia. I mean, who were you guys? I know, Curtis, your background is in the mortgage industry. Cynthia, more in technology. Who wants to jump first? Who wants to kind of rewind a little bit?
So I was born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida, which is Northeast Florida, home of the Jaguars, who really stink. And anyways, I was involved in the early days of the internet. Even before Google search came along, there were companies like Find What and Overture, and this was kind of in the infancy of pay-per-click and everything. And that kind of dried up, and, you know, the industry changed. And so I went to work for a company developing mobile apps. I was a loyalty architect, meaning I would customize the mobile app for a specific small business. And so the app had to be highly configurable. You know, I really had to have an intimate understanding of how user engagement was going to be handled. And we were really successful, increased average ticket size, you know, foot traffic, all that good stuff for a business. And that company sold. And at like 7 years ago, how old was I? Like 35, something like that. I was kind of faced with a career shift that the company I was just with wasn't really doing anything. They sold to Thesis and everything. So I just started at the bottom of the mortgage industry. I got my mortgage loan originator license. And this is in 2015. You know, when mobile apps were exploding and they were kind of everywhere in personal finance. And so I got into the mortgage industry, and I'm a frontline loan officer. I'm on the phone with customers every day. You're an agent. You know how this goes. If somebody needs to get pre-approved, go get pre-approved. It's the same application. It's the same questions, same answers. So I would have a lot of people ask me if we had a mobile app, if they could do this on their phone. And so I had to say no. And I'm going to let her jump in here because we're about to get into my light bulb moment, which will.
Yeah. Well, before we get into Cynthia's story, I'm just really curious because most of your background was, I guess, behind the screen, not actually consumer to consumer, right, Curtis?
It was B2C.
Okay.
Yeah, we dealt heavily with consumers, even in the CPC days, lead generation days. We would still deal with the consumer, kind of customize the landing page so that it captured the information, captured interest, and then of course, that information was sold to mortgage brokers who were one of our biggest clients. So,
Okay.
I've kind of been involved in all aspects of it.
All right, Cynthia.
Yeah, my background, when we met, I was in insurance and risk management. That was my career for a long time. Then we started having children. We have a lot of them. I kind of left that career at home, and around the same time that when he goes into his light bulb moment, I kind of fell down this blockchain crypto rabbit hole. Took some classes, learned about blockchain, kind of taught myself how to code, and you can learn everything now on YouTube. The first iteration of our first smart contract, I coded myself. So that's kind of how I fell down the technology side of it.
And then that light bulb moment happened, Curtis?
Yeah, so back in 2017, when Bitcoin hit 20,000, blockchain was a buzzword. And so I started to research blockchain, and I very quickly realized that a smart contract does exactly what I do as a loan officer every single day, pre-approving customers. I would intake data, decision it, and then issue either an approval or a denial. You can program a smart contract to do it. And you can trust it as well because there's no human errors, there's no biases that kind of enter into code. Code is colorblind, so the common saying. So I was working for a Fortune 100 lender at the time, and so I started to poke around. I started to ask people if were we doing anything with blockchain. One of my co-founders, who shall remain nameless, works at one of the leading mortgage technology companies, which is headquartered in Jacksonville. So I call him up. I was like, "Hey, man, are y'all doing anything in blockchain?" He didn't even know what it was. Almost everybody I talked to didn't know what it was. And if they knew what it was, they thought it was Bitcoin. So at that time, I figured we were early. And Rocket Mortgage had just, released their app kind of around this time. The industry kind of collectively held its breath to see if this was really going to be a mobile mortgage, kind of soup to nuts type deal. It's really not. It's a great ad campaign. I have the highest respect for Dan Gilbert, Jay Farner. Those guys have done something well. They generated a lot of wealth for their investors and their backers, and a lot of kudos to them. But the app was really just a lead generation funnel, that sort of thing. It was running on 90s technology. So after we started to analyze the tech stacks, we realized that you can't pull any technology that's off the shelf, any loan origination software off the shelf, and then configure it for a mobile app, because it's still going to be dependent on a human loan officer to manage the data. So the key is eliminating that loan officer, and that's really what a smart contract does. Blockchain is robotics for the office worker. It's going to do to the office worker what robotics did to the car assembly line, which is just replace humans with automation. So she's fallen down the crypto rabbit hole about the same time I'm having my light bulb moment. And we get together, and I talk her into letting me quit my job at the bank. And it was a great job, great benefits. We have a big family. Health insurance is very expensive. So we did that.
Well, so you talked about it. So it's you two plus two other partners, co-founders?
Yeah, we have, it's her and I. I'm one of our licensed mortgage guys. There's another mortgage guy. Kristen and Dewey are our two real estate agents. Holly is another technologist. And then there's a couple other co-founders who just put up some pre-seed money kind of early in the journey.
So we're talking about roughly about 10 cooks in the kitchen.
There were a lot in the very beginning, and we were just all back there cooking.
Well, how do you not step on each other's toes? I mean, I've had people on here with partnerships, and they have that back and forth, the fighting, and sometimes it's fantastic, sometimes it's rough. This is the first time I had this many cooks in the kitchen. I'd love to hear kind of how you've kind of worked with it and made it so positive, I guess.
Well, really, in the day to day, it's just Curtis and I and Matt.
Yeah.
Who is head of product development. The other guys, I mean, we're all friends, and they just believed in Curtis's vision for B and put up some cash and kind of helped with real estate side of things. But really, in the day to day, it's just the three of us, Curtis and Matt.
Yeah, and in the very, very early days when we were bootstrapping, they were just volunteering at their time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them have full-time jobs. Matt, this is one of the stories we wanted to tell. Matt Offers is our just rock star co-founder, and we got introduced through a blockchain attorney out of Orlando named Debbie Hoffman. She is one of the unseen and unsung influencers in the blockchain community. The Federal Reserve had her come and talk at the Dallas Fed alongside FIS and IBM about cryptocurrency. I mean, she is very, very smart. So she calls me up one day. This is when we're bootstrapping, pre-revenue, pre-product. We're burning through our savings, just that time. She said, I've got this guy out of Dallas. He's a young millennial, and he wants to work in blockchain. And I told him you don't have any money to pay him, but he's still interested. So, number one red flag, No, I'm totally kidding. We talked to him.
We talked to him. He was all for it. He was gung-ho about our vision and what we were doing, and we were going to revolutionize the industry. And he moved here, sold everything that he had, and...
Well, hey, hang on. He tells us that I don't need to get paid because I'm a millennial. My dad pays for everything. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, Dad ran out of money. Hey, we're an open book, so
Yeah.
Dad and I are very close. We went to their wedding. It's all good. So he got to the point where he was like, "Listen, I'm either going to need to get a paycheck or move on." And I was like, "If you don't want to move on, you want to keep going with us, just come crash on our couch." It's kind of a rite of passage for every fintech startup at some point, so we can check that box off. So, mind you, Matt's a young guy. I think it might have been 26, 28, something like that. Okay. He doesn't have any kids. He's a bachelor. So he moves into our house, and honestly, it's a circus. It is a joyful, loving circus. But he's sleeping on our couch, and the guy is just watching all this craziness.
Yeah.
And
I think he was there for like 3 months, something like that.
So here's how it all works out. There a lot of times in life, call it your fate, God's plan for your life, whatever you want to call it. You just, when you should be doing something, you just do it. Okay. And it just all kind of seems to fall into place. So really, with every single one of our partnerships, a lot of our employees, we have extremely low turnover, aside from her firing me every day. And just all the people who have just kind of come into our path, they just all worked out. So after he moved here, he gets on Tinder or whatever it is, these dating apps. He meets a wonderful girl.
They're now married and just had a baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was the cutest thing. We got to meet Matt's family whenever they flew in for the wedding. Wonderful family. And honestly, it was great. He's really our, I don't want to call him our third wheel in a bad aspect, but just from the very beginning, it's been her and I and Matt.
Three.
Yeah. And at the end, it will probably be us three.
All the other co-founders have full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the three of us that are full-time that we're co-founders. So that's how we can make it work. There's not actually 10 of us in the day-to-day.
Yeah.
How did it feel to the point when you can actually start paying yourself?
When did we finally start paying ourselves? It was a year or two. Was it a year or two after? That initial light bulb moment where you quit your job.
Yeah. So going up to 2020, which is COVID, and if you remember the world before COVID.
Yeah.
That was our first fundraising round.
All of
Right.
2019, we met with investors.
Yeah.
And either they didn't have good intentions or they weren't that interested. I don't know. One of them changed the deal. Man, this is a story. So I flew down to Marco Island, which is Naples, Florida. I'm not. And we met with a guy. And looking back, we're actually glad that it didn't work out. Okay. But we met with a guy who said, yes, I'll give you $100,000 in seed money. And it was at a valuation that a third party had told us, if you're selling equity, this is what you should be selling it for. He agreed to it. We shook hands.
And this was $100,000 was a lot to us back then.
This is also right. We had like 2 months left in our savings. So the end is near.
Yeah.
Okay. And we shook hands and I got up and left. And to me, if you shake my hand and you tell me you're going to do something, you need to do it.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, that's it. Okay. So a week goes by. He's kind of brushing us off. And then through the person that made the intro, finally gets in touch with him. And he says, yeah, I'm ready to send the money, but I want 1/3 of the valuation. He cut it by 1/3. And
we didn't take it.
Which
it was really hard not to. I wanted him to take a deal because we were just really hard up for cash. And we didn't have anything else coming down the pipeline. But thank God we didn't.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit right after that.
Yeah, and that guy got into some economic trouble.
Legal
I'm
trouble,
not going to say anything else. We avoided a bad partnership. So we kind of sidestepped a landmine and it was really just because we were true to, okay, if we have a deal, we have a deal. There wasn't any negotiating. He just kind of at the last minute wanted to change it.
In those kind of low moments, right, where you don't have, like you said, you had 2 months left of income for savings, and you have, 8 kids. And if you're, I don't know if we brought that up already, but they have 8 kids. So it's not just necessarily for yourself as a couple, but also for your kids. And you're coming from that fear. How do you hold on to the faith that you're going to actually build something and it's going to be successful and you're not going to be either homeless or not going to be able to find food for your kids?
Good mortgage guys are always in high demand. Okay. So if it wasn't going to work out for B, I'm just going back to a bank, so I didn't want to do that. When I worked for the bank, it was just, I wanted to jump out the window, but we just had this belief that if we just kept going, it was somehow going to work out. I don't know how to explain it any other way. And that was mid 2019. And then in late 2019, we'd also heard some other no's, not as bad. We weren't at the goal line with those investors. And then they said, no, these were just regular no's. Come back when the product's built, come back when you have some user growth, some traction, that sort of thing. And in 2019, there was a new crowdfunding portal that opened and was looking for startups to raise capital on. And so we were one of those startups. And 3 other crowdfunding portals had rejected us, had turned us down because we were way too early in product development or, this, that, or the other. So we opened our first crowdfund pre-seed round in November of 2019. It trickled along because of Christmas, holidays, just everything kind of slows down then.
And everybody was like, "Oh, just wait till January,
Just
February
wait till
after
January.
the holidays are
Yeah.
over."
And then in early January, we see news reports about a virus coming in from overseas. And you were there to live all of it. In February, we hit 50,000, and then we finally got our first influx of cash. We reinvested all of that into the company.
We still weren't paying ourselves back then.
Nope. We just, and then when COVID really hit, we knew this was going to be different. And, you can remember in the early days in 2020, you knew something was coming. It was just kind of nobody knew what to expect. We couldn't take meetings. And they shut down schools. She's having a virtual school, 6 kids. Plus, this is the real rock star. No lie. Moms are already incredible. This one's the best. But running a startup, putting up with me, doing everything she did. I mean, there were 2 months at the end of the school year in 2020 where she was virtually schooling all of them, plus taking meetings.
How do you divide? I mean, the say in the company. If let's say if you were doing another seed round and an investor came in, I mean, do you guys already have a game plan of saying, okay, this is what we're willing to do? Or if one person wants to go one direction, the other person doesn't really want to go that direction, how do you resolve those hiccups and disagreements?
We haven't had any to date.
You're talking about who breaks the tie, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Technically, we both have equal amounts of shares, but
I'm CEO.
he's CEO, so if it really came down to it, he would be the tiebreaker, and I'd be okay with that. This is more his baby than it is mine. It took me a while to get on board with this idea fully, especially in the beginning. Now, I'm 100%, but he's the mortgage brains behind all of this, and I've always just been 100% supportive of his vision, and just helping with the technology side of it. So I guess if it really came down to it, he would be the tiebreaker. But we haven't had any disagreements to date, knock on wood, about anything.
We had an investor refuse to invest because we were married.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was another hard one.
Yeah.
And one of our before I got into the mortgage industry, when I worked for myself, you set your own schedule. This is when lead generation was going on. And then I go to work for the mortgage industry for the bank, and I'm in the bank. And she suddenly left at home with all the kids for 8-10 hours a day. Honestly, I didn't feel it was fair. Like, I would come home and she lives in a daycare center. The kids never leave. So just one of our personal motivations for B is that we could both do it together. We enjoy it. I don't want to go work somewhere where I'm leaving her for 8 hours a day. It's not fun to me. So, it's enjoyable to us. And I understand why that guy didn't want to invest. He may have had a bad experience. Who knows? With a husband and wife co-founder, but there's some pretty good articles to back it up. I mean, when a company has married co-founders, it's magic.
Well, it's magic when they work well together.
When it works, yeah. We work well together. We would have never started this if we couldn't.
Oh yeah.
Leave each other this many hours of the day. And I understand not wanting to invest or if you've had a bad experience. But I joke all the time that we work more than normal people because we go to bed at night and we're still talking about work, and that's all we talk about is B. And we leave, after the work day's over, we're still talking B. So
do you guys and I've had some married couples on here that have been partners, and sometimes they have boundaries of saying, okay, we're going to shut it off at this time or this window. Does it ever get shut off where it's no more B talk?
We don't ever have to say it, but
We know when it's enough.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like when she lets her hands off my neck and I can breathe again, I know it's time to shut up.
Where do you see the company and your guys' future going in the next 5 years?
Whew. So we're trying to plan for the next 5 years right now.
Yeah.
And like we've got one eye on the Fed, one eye on housing prices, and just, oh man.
In 5 years, hopefully we're expanded into all 50 states.
In 5 years, we're prepping for an IPO.
Yeah.
It takes you 2 to 3 years, to start prepping for it. It takes an average Silicon Valley company 8 to 10 years to go public. We've been around 2 years, so 5 years from now, hopefully, we've had the runway so that we're looking at a public offering. We definitely have the board in place to support it. Scott Miller is one of our investors and board members. His company is Bill Go. They're gearing up for big things right now. So from an investor standpoint, that's what a lot of our investors are kind of looking to for 5 years. From a user experience standpoint, here's where it gets really interesting. If you look at the top 10 mortgage lenders today, half of them were not around like 5 years ago. And what that just illustrates is an accelerated pace of change within our industry. And the big boys like Wells, Quicken, B of A, they're always going to be there in some fashion. The industry right now is going through a lot of innovation, which will lead to consolidation. But just in line with how the top 5 weren't there 10 years ago, I think we're going to be knocking on the door. We're definitely going to be the number one mobile mortgage that consumers have a brand knowledge of, start to finish on your phone. So in 5 years, we should have a national disruptive brand in the mortgage market.
Where do you see the purchasing or refinancing? I mean, I guess refinance be one thing, but let's say real estate in 5 years. I mean, do you feel all facets are going to have AI aspects to it?
Well, a lot of them already do. You just don't know it. Yeah. The thing with new technology, and not like the internet. I mean, when the internet came on the scene, you had to figure out, what a website was. Okay. That was a drastic change in kind of what we're looking at and, getting info from. But mobile apps have kind of always been on the scene. Digital lending platforms, they've been around now. So how consumers interface with them is definitely going to improve. There's going to be more automation behind the scenes in terms of what AI programs are doing, kind of the workload they're handling. And they're already out right now. They're just testing and iterating and perfecting these OCR, these AI machine learning type programs. What we're doing is we're simply putting all that, consolidating that into just a very simple user interface in our app. Again, a lot like Uber, a lot like Robinhood. And our target audience is first-time homebuyers. They're on Robinhood and Uber. They buy stocks, and on Robinhood, they buy cars with Carvana and Fair, Uber for rideshare, Chime for banking, Tinder. I mean, just they're doing everything in mobile apps.
The age group that's going to be buying homes in the next 5 years has grown up with an iPhone.
Yeah.
They do everything on their phones.
Yeah, Gen Z is the first digitally native generation. I mean, they grew up with the iPhone. I don't know if you have kids. Our kids can do things with our iPhones so that we don't even know you could be done. I mean, this is just. She does know. I don't know. She got it set up for this interview, by the way.
Well, talking about that a little bit, I mean, you brought up the idea that the demographic, it sounds like you're mostly going for over the next couple of years, going to be 20-somes, maybe 30-somes. And being that some of your older kids are in their early 20s, right? I mean, how much beta testing do they do for you on your app?
Yeah, so when we were mapping out, what I did and did a lot of was just map out the workflows. And I mean, it's yes or no answers, but I mean, the path can diverge just at hundreds of different ways. Okay. So yeah, when I built out just a cheap prototype on Adobe XD, our two kids who are now 16, they were 13 at the time. And I gave the phone to them and I said, I want you to get a mortgage here. And they would click through it and they would understand it. And that goes into part of our design philosophy. I understand banking terms, but I am in no way a banker. Okay. And the amortization schedule to me or any other regular person is a repayment schedule. Okay. So part of our design philosophy for B is that don't use banking terms. The app has to be so easy to use that a first-time buyer or a 13-year-old can download it and use it to get a mortgage on. And if it's not that simple, then it's not. We haven't simplified the process enough. So in very early prototype beta testing, our two teenagers were our focus group, and they gave us some feedback, and we kind of iterated from there. But we have a saying that whoever owns the mobile purchase market owns the future of lending. And millennials became the largest home buying group in 2020. They have since grown, and Gen Z is a larger generation, and they're right behind them. So we really have just our vision is a 10, 20, and a 30-year plan. We're not really looking to exit. We love what we do. If we were to exit, even if we made a lot of money, what are we going to do? We're go find something else to do. But
more kids?
No.
Our youngest is finally self-sufficient and out of diapers, so that we're done.
Yeah.
What? Well, let me finish it off with this, because I appreciate both of you being so transparent and giving all your insight into this. If you could do it again and build this app, or build an app with AI, kind of go down the same rabbit hole, is there any advice that you kind of wish you would have known when you started this one?
You're never going to know what you're capable of until you don't have any other choice but to execute and perform. And statistically, it's like 90% of companies, Silicon-backed companies, fail. I mean, that's a high number. We're not venture-backed in the sense of somebody just came along and dumped off, truckloads of money to us. We had something more into our company than just money. We have poured ourselves into the company. And thankfully we got partners and honestly employees who just shared the belief that there's no option. Failure is not an option. There's no easy day. This isn't easy. You don't sign up to do something like this to make a lot of money up front or for a lot of glory or recognition up front. If 90% of the companies fail who are better back than we are, we got to double and triple our efforts, and really understand that you got to figure it out. Doesn't matter what the resources are that you have. I liken it a lot of times to being stuck on an island. There's been personality conflicts, just every kind of disagreement you can have. And but we all, at the end of the day, we were just dedicated to putting our heads down and working to figure it out.
Do you think if you would have known how much work was going to go into building this company and getting to where you were or are, that you would have still done it?
Every time.
I look at your face over there. Look at him different. Yeah.
I'm glad that we stuck it out. The first 2 years were hell. I mean, we haven't even gotten into what hell, how poor we were. But I'm glad we stuck it out. Yes,
Our Suburban broke down. We still haven't pulled money out of the company to fix it. We got this car that didn't have electricity. The water, windows wouldn't roll up and down. The lights wouldn't come on. The windshield wipers wouldn't come on.
No AC.
There was no AC.
And then after that finally broke down, he was riding his bike for like 2 months to the Publix around the corner to get groceries for our family. That is how poor we were.
So when our car broke down, I rode my bike, and I was thankful I had a bike.
And then our bike
got stolen, and I was thankful I had 2 legs to walk to the store. And I'm walking back with just bags of as many I could carry. I mean, just running into your wrists, and everything. But
so would I choose to do that part again? No. But I'm glad we stuck it out.
Well, Curtis, where does that positivity come from?
I just knew it was going to work out.
He's born to be an entrepreneur. This is totally his spiel, and he has been 100% behind his vision since day one. I mean, when we were in the thick of it, like riding bikes to the grocery store, and I was like, okay, you need to go back to being a process. This is ridiculous.
Anything other than this.
And he was like, we can make it. We just got to hold on for a couple more months.
So I have one story to tell for other entrepreneurs out there. It's about our trademark. So in the very worst of times, I was still getting up every day, going to my laptop, and just working any work that could be done. We filed a trademark application 2 months before somebody else did. And I don't want to get into details, but the fact that I was just getting up to put the work in and happened to file like 60 days before this other company did is saving our brand right now. And this was around the time where that guy changed the deal on us at last minute. And, you look back on it, and we just really every step of the way, it's worked out. We've had doors open. We've had opportunities come our way. And when we hit our pre-seed round, we got connected with the best investors ever.
Right. Like our investors have become like family to us. This group that he's talking about. It's worked out. So.
What states are you guys currently in for or lending in for?
We're beta testing in Florida.
Florida, okay.
Right now, yeah, we're going to be in beta for like 6 months. So we're going to open the Florida market. We're in the middle of an A round right now. We're raising money to open the Florida market and then finish building out the rest of the app. From there, we're actually one of the states I've done a lot of business in is California. It's a wonderful state to do business in, especially mortgage business. Property market's really hot, as I'm sure you know. So we're going to expand into maybe 5 states about a year from now after we open the Florida market and start to scale revenue.
And if people are listening right now and they want to keep up to date on when you expand to different states, get more information about you two and the company, what's the best way of them doing that?
They can find us on Twitter or our website.
The website has all the information.
They can sign up for email alerts on our website. We will not spam you. I promise. We're not. It drives me nuts when I get them. So if you want to sign up for just alerts, I think we've sent out less than 5 over 2 years.
Okay.
Which is beatingmortgageapp.com.
Yes. All that information is in the show notes right there. So feel free to subscribe to that. Like they said, you're not going to get spammed. Thank you, Curtis and Cynthia. You can definitely see the happiness. One person's very, very happy, and I see Cynthia kind of pulling him back, getting him back to reality. You have to have that. You have to have that partnership throughout the process, but you guys make it seem so seamless.
Thank you.
We're lucky. We work well together.
She's wonderful.
Well, thank you, everyone listening right now. Hopefully, you got some great nuggets. If there's a will, there's a way. Be happy. Have that idea. And if you get along with your loved ones, share it with them, and maybe they might be able to help you get to where you want to get to. Thank you, Curtis. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, everyone listening.
Thank you, Benny.
Subscribe and
Thank
share.
you.
Bye, bye.
Bye bye.